I'm Jennifer Sealy, Artistic Director of Dance in Africa, and I'm speaking on behalf of Tony Thorne and Keisha Dowridge, who are actually choreographers of this piece. The piece entitled Umoja, the Spirit of Togetherness. This is a fun, high-energy African piece. We have contemporized it a bit, mixed it a little with some Caribbean rhythms, and we have brought it to the Barbadian audience as Umoja. We love this piece. The children have been having some fun with this piece for almost 2 years now, and we made some changes, some adaptations for the MIFCA stage, and we hope that they will give it their very best. It has been a bit challenging bringing it thus far, because we have to take it out of the realm of just general performance for their sakes and for their audience's sakes and bring it into competition. But they're enjoying having the fun, and they're enjoying going to another level in their dance activity, and we wish them well. We wish them the very best, and we know that they will do us well.
And where are we traveling from this evening, ma'am?
Yeah, I know.
What part again are you from?
I from Rupununi.
How long you plan to spend in Barbados?
3 weeks.
What part you spend in Barbados?
Want me by my friend in St. Lucie. Want me by my friend in Bastille. Want me by my friend in Mechanic Bridge. Want me by my friend.
Saturday, June 28th, 7:30 p.m. at the BCC North Campus Auditorium, 1000 Coconut Creek Boulevard in Coconut Creek. The long-standing tradition of pageant comedy is finally here, and you don't want to miss it.
Tell me, how much money you're traveling with this evening?
But you see, I know I don't consider Guinea's money to be money, right? But I have some money, right?
Don't all dress in here.
But I tell you, I do so much money I have on me, and I feel you should have a hands-on approach to this thing.
Ma'am, please go and stand over the bench, please. I want you to control your body.
You want to do something to my body?
Ma'am, I never say I want to do anything to your body.
Yes, you should push your body search me.
Ma'am, please go and sit over the bench, please.
Yeah, you sit down.
Ma'am, I am 1689 Officer Padmore, and I have some secondary questions to ask you pertaining to your entry in Barbados.
You can ask me secondary, thirdly, or fourthly. Why don't you touch me?
Ma'am, I don't have the authority to touch you.
Look at me, Asifa. Huh? I don't look suspicious to you, Asifa. Come and touch me. Make sure you grab it.
Ma'am.
And you don't want to miss it. Come laugh it off. The satirical review that looks at life in the Caribbean. From the reggae DJ to the crooked member of parliament. From the town drunk to the wealthy pastor. There's something for everyone to laugh about.
According to the Immigration Act, Chapter 16, Section 4, Subsection 3, Verse 12, no immigration officer shall at any time touch anyone physically while on the job, okay?
See what I said about our babies? I too unfair. It's only to certain people.
My man, these robbers, not cleaners. Give me the money, man!
Yeah. Listen, you want me to freeze or you want me to give you money?
Wait. You talking back to me? I see my with the gun. Look. Pass up. Down. Up. Down. No freeze.
Yo, that's a career beat, yeah? Let me try that. Up, down, left, right, freeze.
Listen, my man, move from there, man. Listen.
Yeah.
Give me the money, girl.
Yeah, boss, mama, you want that shit on freeze?
Listen, the games. If you don't give me the money, we gonna shoot you.
Wait, you gonna shoot she? You got going bullets, cause mine ain't going on.
Yes. My gun going bullets. You can have bullets. You got one name here.
No, you need Jamal.
Bye.
a train a-coming. You don't need no baggage, you just get on board. All you need is faith to hear those diesels humming. You don't need no ticket, you just thank the Lord. People get ready for the train to Jordan, picking up passengers coast to coast. Love is the key, open the doors and board them. There's hope for all among those loved the most. For the hopeless sinner who would hurt all mankind just to save his own. You gotta have pity on those whose chances grow thinner, 'cause there's no hiding place against the kingdom's throne. So
Good night, good night, good night. Good night, Barbados. Good night, Facebook world. Welcome to Homegrown Roundtable live Facebook discussion episode ad infinitum. I don't know what we're going to call this, but we've been doing this for a while now. Yeah, and it's a pleasure tonight because we have two very powerful ladies as our guests. Two of my mentors. I will not do the introductions. I will leave that for Sluggy Dan, but I must acknowledge their influence on me and the amount of respect I have for them and how they've handled me over the years from very young. So as customary, I'll introduce my co-hosts. We have Lady Crystal P. Austin, vocalist, entrepreneur, and Sluggy has some other descriptors for her. I will not use those descriptors tonight because I got in trouble last week with her for that. She was busy last week.
Crystal.
These busy people and their schedules, right, Miss Crystal? Nice color. We have Mr. Sean Lane.
The superstar is here.
Mr. Sean Lane in the top left corner, who is the creative director of Bien Nature Crochet and a musician extraordinaire. He doesn't claim that accolade, but he always will give credit to that. And
yes, Road March, People's March, Sweet Soca.
Mr. Sluggy Dan in the top right corner, entrepreneur, radio personality, vocalist as well. Good night to everyone. Over to you, Sluggy.
Good night. Greetings to everyone. Blessings, manners. If they don't say manners, people in figure. So manners and respect to everyone. I must say that speaking to people like Miss Austin, who is so enlightened in my opinion, and persons like Mr. Randy Eastman, them always have a heightened sense of awareness. So conversations like, if we're doing what we're doing now with these two ladies 40 years from now, Randy, or 50 years from now, doing what we're doing with these two ladies, it would seem so iconic and such a cultural, historical moment because of what they have done already, while still being alive in the culture is phenomenal, and we can get into that for sure. But for two black women, Randy, I can say, right?
You gotta say it.
Two black women to do what they did, Randy, is phenomenal. I mean, for any human being, but for being two black women, like, I salute that. Jennifer Sealy, who of course needs no introduction, but I'm sure everyone that's alive now, Randy, everyone that's alive now that follow dance, that follow anything to do with culture, they would all agree that Dance in Africa is one of the greatest institutions we have in Barbados when it comes to quality, professionalism. Maybe was doing the video for Dapper Randy.
Yeah.
And when you see the children, called majority of them was children, maybe doing Dapper Rhythm a tribute to Damien Taylor. And when the children come, all standing up, same way,
Yep.
when they come on the stairs or the walking stairs. I
The
was even
discipline.
joking about it. Everybody walking in the same way.
The
Like
discipline.
like Roddy
Discipline.
with eyes. Rodney Holler, Jenny boy. Like all walk the same way they all, and then when the music start, everybody click. You say yo. Like it was so amazing. So I'm sure everyone like will agree Dance Africa is one of the most amazing groups we have here and something that all Barbadians can be proud of. Then Cecily Spencer Cross, Randy.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone know like a simple name, laugh it off. Like listen how simple that is. Like they got some ideas that you like wait, like how how can it how can they never think of that? You know what I mean? Like sense simple, laugh it off.
Mm.
And then you
What
see
was around
persons
it?
like who are really a shaka come through and find a home and I get to see a shaka do something so amazing but so Beijing. And then first artists like Troy Special Randy who we will see as a calypsonist singing calypso singing soca in the party morning and so on with his band full force. And then get to see Troy as something completely different to what a cousin Santa but equally as great. And Laugh It Off is another one of those things that can never die. You think Beijing bus stop, Pampalam, you think Laugh It Off. Things that our children can tell their grandchildren. You know what I mean? So I just want to say to you two ladies, I know we normally do this. I know the customaries wait until you die and then we will do this at your funeral, that's norm. But Randy and I just a bit weird like that. At least do it now. You know what I
Correct.
mean? Because we don't know if we can die before you all. That's reality.
That's reality.
So instead of me feeling sad and saying I never get to salute these cultural icons as women, as black women, as strong women, and then as creatives, I've never got to sing their praises while they were alive. So I just want to tell to you all, thanks for all you do for the culture. And from me personally, Sluggy, I really, really appreciate what you two ladies do. And thanks for coming on Homegrown Roundtable.
Correct. And
Okay.
tonight we're live on Facebook.
Thank you.
We're live on Facebook, and we are also live on Trident 10 TV, CBC 94.7 FM. Thanks to them as our sponsors in kind. And tonight is going to be an interesting discussion. Just to give Cecily and Jennifer a precursor to what has happened for the last maybe 14 weeks, we've started some discussions on culture and the arts and the implications for certain things and suggestions for a way forward, etc. And we've had some very in-depth discussions with a lot of stalwarts, persons who are deemed icons within the area, young persons who are also making headway within the industry. So tonight we found it fitting to include you two ladies, and we have a number of topics
Thank
which
you.
cover a plethora of areas within the disciplines of theater and dance. I will leave it to the grammarian, Miss Krista Austin, to kind of introduce those topics in at this point in time, and then we can get into the discussion. Sean will probably lead off, and Sean usually takes it in a different direction and and offers and proffers some different perspectives. So, Crystal.
Yes, good night, and salutes and bows and love and peace to these two beautiful icons. We are very honored to have you on our show tonight.
Thanks.
I want to
Thanks.
start the ball rolling with the coronavirus. One of the things that I have noticed with a heavy heart is that because of COVID, the schools have scrapped and they've done this out of obligation, the extracurricular activities. But one of the things that we've been saying on the show is that culture and the education of our youth as it relates to our culture is so important and should be interwoven within everything that they do. What
Mm-hmm.
has what has been your experience as it relates to this whole situation with the COVID and the schools and what is your view rather on this notion that we can't or shouldn't incorporate these things into the curricula at this time because of COVID. Do you think that's a cop out? Do you feel like because we're meeting online, they should find a way to engage our children in our culture?
Well, if we can start, if we're talking about creativity, we have the expression is in Jamaica. They have an expression that says you gotta take your hand and turn and make fashion, right? Or you gotta make do, right? Or Bajans will tell you, if you ain't got a horse, ride a cow. So if that is part of our psyche, that whatever is happening, you gotta make something out of it. In this whole COVID environment, we have to, explore our own creativity to see how we are gonna live with it and create out of it. Um, I've seen on YouTube and I've seen on Facebook that people are making the most of it. We've seen Calypsonians. I did some work with Ian Webster in creating a song, and all of that is part and parcel. I've also, Jennifer and I, we had to judge a competition in poetry and in rhythm poems and in essays about the whole COVID experience. So, as I say, you have to make your creativity work for you in this environment. There will be situations in which you can't because, we teach drama, and drama is a very tactile activity. It is a very collaborative effort. So you're going to have to find ways and means of restructuring your teaching to embrace the whole social distancing and trying your best and really stretching your imagination in how you will teach in this environment. Yes.
Very true.
Je-
And I would want to
Very
I
true.
would
I
want to
wanna
get Jennifer's impression on
sorry, go
that
ahead,
too,
Randy.
because Jennifer is as an educator. Your
Mhm.
thought process.
These are very difficult times. I'm going to deal with Dance in Africa first, and then I'm going to come back to our system of education. It is no doubt that COVID isn't an easy situation to be dealing with. And we got knocked out as a group. We were in the month of March, we were doing performances. Actually, our last performance may have been, um, we did something for gender affairs, and that was at Welchman Hall. And we had to close immediately following that. We did try after a while, maybe in the month of April or May, that we thought that we would have some online classes. We began with our junior company, and they had 4 weeks of online. It wasn't too bad. We gauged from that, and then we decided that we would have our level ones and twos and our junior company in active classes, and that went for 5 weeks. The challenge there was that children were on online classes for school. And I think after a while, they probably got a little tired constantly being online, and that was challenging. But we were happy that most of our children in the group, they came out. So there are ways in which to do things. We also had two different videos that one for the YWCA, and that was taught. And Shea Bess, he was the choreographer, so he was able to send a video rather than teach the dance online. He did a video and sent it to the juniors, and then many of them taped themselves, videoed themselves from home, and then we had a collective that Trident 10 would have put together. So we got engaged in certain things. Right now, we are back out, but one would admit that we seem to have a few challenges, and one or two parents I have seen, they have called with concerns, and that is their right. So we don't know what the next few weeks will bring, but it is a challenge. But when I speak to school, and we know how it is, the reality is that if school children are going to do face to face 2 days, maybe maximum, and the rest online, chances are that we will not see a lot of that time designated to the arts. It is sad to say, but that is the reality. So I would think that from school to school, the curriculum would have to be, the syllabus would have to be really planned for things like visual arts and drama and movement and dance to really occur with such a short time allotted to face to face. I don't know if that answers anything for you, Crystal.
Yes, yes, definitely. And I think that, that's kind of the hard reality of our school kids' lives right now, where we're trying to. You want to say hello? Come say hello.
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 I would believe that the schools that are preparing for CXC, I mean, these are early days yet, but those schools that would be looking at
Bring your bedroom and
CXC
watch
to
TV.
enter, any of the schools that would be doing dance, visual arts, they would have to find ways of making it work. ISS, BCC dance, and they're still out in classes. Social distancing would have, physical distancing would have to seriously apply. I remember that they had a shortened version of their portfolio. They had it. It was face to face. We had a small audience of course, parents and well wishers, but it happened. It happened. So schools will determine what they ought to do to ensure that distancing, that physical distancing comes into play. And that is very important, very critical. We had a performance this Sunday, and it was admirable. We had 7 dancers who went to Sons of God Apostolic Church because a very well known spiritual Baptist icon, Mother Gittins, she was being elevated to the post of bishop within the Sons of God Apostolic faith. And I deemed it really fitting that Dance in Africa made tribute when it was requested. So we went out, and obviously they come into the space with their masks and then they take them off because we don't want to exhaust them too terribly having to wear a mask and physical
Dance.
activity. But there are distance, and we tried to make that distancing happen in the church in their presentation as well. So there are ways and means to do it.
I can
Mhm.
also add that I saw on Facebook Michelle Hinkson Cox from BCC. She did a presentation with a group of actors, and it was all done all similar to how musicians would, put together a performance where you can have different screens, but it has its challenges because theater is an interactive kind of activity. So the mere fact that an attempt was made to have perhaps what we would call YouTube theater, it was commendable.
Yes, it
So,
was.
yes.
Right. So we on this show, because that this show was birthed out of lockdown, we almost every week we touch on the effects of COVID on the creative economy and our cultural expression. But I want to take a little step back. Um, uh, we know that Laugh It Off and Dance in Africa have become household names, but can you share with us, who we're gonna start with first, the beginnings of those two institutions. We can probably start with Jennifer.
Dance in Africa was founded in 1992. We began
Mhm.
with 15 dancers, 15 adults. No, it's not fair. 15 members, performing members. We had a board of management. Ralph Thorne was chairman, Jennifer Sealy, Patricia Oliver, Beverly Gaskin, Karen McGee. And at first it was created as an adult corps, but there was one child of about 12 years who was actually the strongest dancer. And that
Mm.
would be, y'all would know, some of you would know Shirley Oliver. Her mom was
Mhm.
also a director of the group.
Mhm.
But then we thought
I
that
used to love to see her dance.
Mhm.
pardon, Crystal, you were
I
around
said,
and you were at
yeah,
the
I
grove
ain't
with
had
us,
much rhythm, but I used to love to be around you
but you
guys,
tried.
and
You
Dee was
tried.
part of the group
Yeah.
when I was there as well.
Yes.
OMG, but Shirley, I just used to love to see her dance.
But she still has it. Once you have it, you don't lose it. But then the children of like Beverly's daughter, Janelle Mitchell, who today stuck within the performing arts. I would credit Janelle's involvement in the arts to Dance in Africa. She was a formidable young member at the time. So the children of the adults, Janelle, Karen's daughter, my daughter Tony, they were the first founders of the children's company. And then you had one or two girls, the Latoyas. They were neighbors, and
Mhm.
they were from Green Park Lane. And they just came up and looked into the pavilion and figured, well, we want to join this group. And I remember, look, there was a sense of freedom at that time that we cannot take for granted now. And they came and they started learning to dance. And our first performance, I said, you know what, as an educator, I said, how is it that these children are coming to dance? And they were still at primary school. They're coming to dancing whenever we have a session, and now they're supposed to go with us, and I have not seen a parent. So I told them I'm gonna go by you, and I went by their homes, introduced myself, just to let the parents see, well, this is the face to the name, and I'm one of the people who is actually responsible for your children, and that's how the children's company was formed. Added to that picture that I was at Erdiston Primary teaching, and that's in Africa, decided that we would have an outreach program at Erdiston Primary. And Erdiston Primary in the years, those early years in 1990s, they did very powerful work at NIFTA.
Mhm.
And so when they left, when those children left, having been trained by people like Mr. Trotman and Oral Welchman for maybe 5 years in dance, they're leaving now to go to their respective first forms. I decided, it doesn't end there. Their growth as dancers and real good dancers. I invited them then to join Dance in Africa, and
Okay.
we blossomed from then. So we still have members like Keisha Amory and Lynn Callender, those children who were in the group from very young, who still remain there. And that's how it was founded, out of an interest. Some of us were in a former group, and that group thought that they wanted to halt, and we decided we would continue with a different name, and here we are today.
Mm.
Here we are.
I have
So
a
so
question for you, Jennifer. You
Yes.
called the group Dance in Africa back in the 90s when Africa was a
Yeah.
taboo word, you know.
Y-
Africa, when you hear
Yeah.
Africa, you think about poverty and malnutrition, and you think about Obe, you think about voodoo, and you don't associate it with anything positive. But you were
Well,
certainly
certainly we did.
progressive
And
at that
I have
time.
to give the credit where credit is due. That name was Ralph's idea, Ralph Thorne. That was his idea that we would call the group Dance in Africa because he understood that was the source of much of what we did was as a result of who we are as a people.
Mm.
So that
Mm.
Dance in Africa really was we were really telling the story of Africans, not just in Africa, but across the diaspora. And it's no surprise that our slogan is diaspora arise. So
Yeah,
hence the name.
that's powerful. That is this is the first time I ever hear that story. That name was given by Ralph Torn. That was very powerful.
Yes.
Very for the Chris said for the 90s too, especially at that time when Africa was such a taboo word to associate. Only thing that shows in Africa was children starving or children dying. You know, the only thing that would show us. So
Or the
for him to have
safari.
that, yeah, or the safari, yeah. So for him, or Tarzan. So for him to have that awareness, at that age, just incredible.
So what was the response when you went out there trying to I imagine you had a vision from the start that you would get opportunities to perform and be paid for your performances in hotels and so on back then. What was the response to
That
Dance
that
in
wasn't
Africa?
that wasn't really it wasn't as easy as it appeared because our our leaders were not rooted in were not rooted traditionally in dance, if you understand where I'm coming from. None of us, only Shirley, Pat, I think Pat assisted at that theater. I'm not sure if Pat was on the board. She may have been. This is Shirley's mother. But Shirley would have had formal training from very young at Barbados Dance Theatre. And so she straddled the two groups. And I'm speaking of Shirley within the context of understanding that this was an adult group from the very start. You had people like Oral Welchman, who was our first choreographer, and Oral had been trained in in um, in Guyana. He worked with the Guyana Dance Theatre. But very early, Ralph understood the need for us to be properly trained, and he sought some of the best on the island to teach us. Sharon was our first female, Sharon Trotman. Tyrone Trotman, of course, Jean Carson. Ralph brought in Jean. So we had good teachers because we understood. I became the artistic director of the group. That proper training of our dancers was extremely essential. But it was tough battling. But I think the fact that we were so strongly rooted in Africa and Caribbean rhythms, the drum was our savior. And people started to look at us. Alongside that, we were learning the modern dance and going into that realm as well. But I think it would have been the rhythm, the personalities, because your personality as a dancer is very important. And I must credit the National Cultural Foundation and NIFTA as affording us with an avenue because we went to NIFTA every year from 1992 until now. And that gave us an excellent platform that allowed us to be seen and
That's
propelled
incredible. Till now,
across
every
Yeah,
year
that
from
Caribbean.
must
Every year
be
till
1992,
now, yep.
that must be a
28
record.
straight years.
Yeah.
Wow.
No,
Like,
let me
whoa, we
add.
can't just.
No, let me say that there's a missing year because in 2004 we were heavily consumed with representation outside of Barbados. 2004, we would have done Barbados on the Water. 2004, I am certain we were in Curacao, down in Curacao doing some other kind of festival and somewhere else. So it was difficult to do NIFCA that year. That was the only year that we were absent from NIFCA. I
Well,
make that
that is phenomenal, though, Miss Celia. That is crazy.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Uh,
We want to bring you in now, Cecily. Certainly,
Yes.
you have led your troops across the globe.
Whoa,
Tell us, tell us
laugh it
about,
off, boy.
tell us about Laugh It
Crystal,
Off.
Crystal, excuse
Yeah.
me. I want to stick a pin. I want to stick a pin there. Cicely, I think that we need to, somewhere along in this conversation,
Uh-huh.
Yes.
speak to our
Our journey.
backgrounds.
Our
Yes.
journey.
Our
Okay.
journey. Yeah.
Oh, yes,
Um.
yes.
Well, before I get to laugh it off, there's a history before that. When I grew up in Baxter's Road, okay, and
Mm, come from
I
town.
had
You come from town.
I come from town, right?
And that's the
Streets.
origin of the
And
group.
when I heard Jennifer talking about Green Park Lane, it
Mm-hmm.
resonated because I went out through Green Park Lane and so forth. I went to school at St. Mary's. But
Mm.
then I had to go and live in St. John.
What?
And my mother originated in St. John. So that's my ancestral home. So when I
Wonderful.
went to school at Mount Tabor, there was this girl, Jennifer Sealy. And, we started out at Mount Tabor together. And then I had to come back to town and I left Mount Tabor. And next thing you know, I end up at foundation school. And the morning I walk into foundation school, who is one of the first people I see but Jennifer Seeley?
What?
Okay?
What?
Okay.
Serendipity at its finest.
Oh.
Foundation school, she's in one class, I'm in another. So imagine these two people going down parallel roads. Not friends. I know her, she knows me. Then I get to Erdison Teachers Training College. Guess who's there? Jennifer Seeley again. Again, we're not friends, but we know each other. And I know of her as a teacher of dance. I'm sure she knew of me as a teacher of drama.
Of
And we
course.
actually did work together in the
Yankee.
21st anniversary of independence. Huh?
Mm.
We did this big
Yeah.
production with over about 2,000 children at the National Stadium. One of the highlights of my career, I might say. So again, she is a dancer. I am a theater artist, and we've gone separate ways, but yet we're going down the same road, the same path. I went to Carifesta in St. Kitts, and I was asked if I would come into the ministry to work. I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I said yes. And that morning, I think it was about the 1st of September 2000, I go into the ministry. Who do I meet but Jennifer Seeley? And I'll tell you the truth. From that day on, that journey from Mount Tabor, Foundation School, Erdison College, and now we in the ministry as I used to say, very pathetic teachers. Sorry, peripathetic teachers.
I will not let you do that
Randy,
to that name.
Randy,
I will
Randy would know.
not let you
Randy
do
would
that to
know.
that name.
Randy,
And
come
yes,
up
so you could appreciate that. Anyhow, and we started working together, bringing that synergy of dance and drama into education. Um,
Wow.
Along the way, I went to the Jamaica School of Drama, where I did a diploma in drama and education. I did a diploma in theater arts. And so um, Jennifer and I created what we call the Peace Program, which stands for Personal Empowerment Through the Arts for Creative Education. And
Nice.
we created a whole series of activities that teachers could use. And it's a pity that, you
And a
know,
syllabus.
yeah, and the syllabus in using the arts. We did workshops with teachers, and it's perhaps one of the things that I am sorry that did not continue. That it cannot be the foundation and perhaps a core subject in the curriculum. Every child in Barbados should be exposed to drama and dance, not
Yes,
necessarily
speak on
dance,
that. Yes.
movement.
Drama
Huh?
movement.
And
Drama movement.
I have this vision and this dream that if we could train at least 20 teachers every year for the next 7 years, we would have a creative person in every school in Barbados.
Amen.
Yes.
We have people who are enthusiastic.
So
Yeah,
you, Randy boy.
Very
you
true.
have to submerge yourself into the arts to become a really good creative teacher. You know, you
Mhm.
can't, teach computer studies, and because you use directly church play, you automatically feel that you are a arts educator.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
So I want to see that arts education being submerged into our training of teachers. And every teacher who goes to a teacher training college should spend at least 1 year
Indeed.
doing drama and movement in
Across the
education.
curriculum.
And
Across
then you
the
have to
curriculum.
use it as part of your practice teaching. That is
Mhm.
what I would like to see.
I
Cecily,
totally agree with
Huh?
you.
a,
Sorry, go
a
ahead,
lot,
Sean.
at what part of that journey would you have formally started um, what we today know as Laugh It Off?
Okay. I don't know if you could see. I have a thing here, which is the first Laugh It Off that we ever did. And
Wow.
it was done in 1985.
Where
Now,
What?
where
Where was it?
where was the performance?
at Daphne Joseph Hackett
Mhm.
Theatre.
Yes, nice.
Wow.
It was the company at that time was called Community Theatre Productions. And it was started by Ian Eswick, who was the producer and the chairman of the company. Guy Goring, now deceased, God rest his soul, he was the secretary. The artistic director was Tony Thompson, and the coordinator was Tom Cross. Well, my husband, Tom Cross, is my husband, and he lived in Jamaica for quite some time. And when he came here, he wanted to bring some of the ideas that seem to have been working in Jamaica. And in Jamaica, they had productions called Jamaica 8 o'clock, Jamaica Time, EAO, and they were all series of very comedic productions.
Mhm.
And the comedy was becoming the economic stability of theater at the time.
Okay.
Okay. So they got together and wanted to do theater, and one of the hallmarks of Laugh It Off is that they wanted to pay the actors and all the technical people.
Wait. Hold on, because you said that the paying
Yeah,
is a hallmark,
yeah.
meaning that before this, that was like
People, no, you used
uh,
to do it amateur. Like you got an honorarium,
right.
um, or you did it for the love of it.
So this is
Um,
would you say then that in Barbados this was a turning point where theater practitioners can now make a living and saw it as saw themselves as professionals?
Well, they could not make a living and sustain themselves
Well,
because,
put what I mean is potentially. I mean the
Yeah, yeah,
fact that now
can.
you are seeing yourself as a professional, so you know it's not a fun thing anymore. It's, even though that you're doing comedy, it is not a joke thing. You know.
No, no, it's not, because as our motto says, we take our comedy very seriously. So, um, I mean, we can pay people that they could do the shows without having another income.
Understood.
Because so as you know, Thompson was on radio,
Mhm.
Esfik was a banker, and I think when we came together, went to the NCF, just like how That's in Africa did, and when they went, it was Guy, Tony, and Tom that went to the NCF, and they were told by Elton Motley that they need a business person to be part and parcel of the company, and that's where Ian Eswick was brought in, because he's a business person. And sometimes we, the artists, we get very excited about the show, and we forget the business part of it, and don't realize that that whole ethos is called show business.
Mhm.
And I think it's because we had that business element um, in our midst that that was one of the successes of the company. And also the company started out to, as it said, to bring comedy. And I could even read what the first program says. The show is set in the Nook and Cranny Bar somewhere west of St. James, and in the spirit of the place, all talk the Stern to theatre. Thus, the Nook and Cranny plays court, church, parliament, and cultural center. Because what we did, we took what happened in the society, and the piece that you did at the beginning was based on the whole situation with somebody, a Jamaican coming into Barbados. I suppose I could call her name because it was in the newspaper.
Yeah.
Yvonne Myrie's
Marie,
case,
correct.
and we
Yeah.
know that it's logical and illogical conclusion.
And the Nook and Cranny
Yeah.
Bar still listed.
So,
It's there, Cecily, because that was in last year's. Nook and Cranny Bar was in this year's production again. Y'all still have that alive and well in the production. Every year I've gone to it, you feature the Nook and Cranny Bar.
yes,
You know?
yes. And that was one of the hallmarks again of the production, that we stayed in that bar, and bar to me always represent the BAR represent Barbados. The first three letters of Barbados. Yeah.
Wow.
And lots of things happen in a rum shop. When the spirits come, all kinds of spirits come. People say that a drunken mind is revealed, a sober mind concealed. So you allow yourself, give vent to what is happening. But in the end, after venting, you still have that moment. After the comedy, it is a moment of reflection. And you have to think about the scenes that you see and laugh it off. Yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but as we go through, I'm sure you're going to ask me other questions, because before Laugh It Off, I used to work with I started out my journey with a company called the National Theatre Workshop, and that was headed by Daphne Joseph Hackett. And I also worked with Stage One Productions, and then Laugh It Off. But what I found was the theater over the years have shifted focus. And obviously it can't stay in the 70s, because in the 70s we were going to Yoruba House. Yeah, and I'm sure that Yoruba House was the nucleus for the Dance in Africas and the all the Pinelands Creative Workshop. A lot of people who came out of Yoruba House went and started other groups and so forth. Yeah. So the whole question of theater and what was happening, we used to do a lot of experimental work. We used to do what people call, in inverted commas, serious theater. We used to do the dramas, and
Mm-hmm.
so I think that some of us miss the whole question of doing what we call the serious drama. I also, my husband and I started a company, Cross Caribbean Productions, and we did Final Truth, which was a whole play about HIV and AIDS. And we did Vagina Monologues, where, every Tuesday,
Oh,
women and the audience was growing. And I miss having some of those types of plays in Barbados. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's one of the things I would like to see happen again, besides what's happening in education.
Right. So, um, you mentioned about different groups coming out of Yarba House, but
Mm-hmm.
what about now? What is happening now as it relates to theater companies? Because I know, um, what I have seen is you would see some person on stage, especially on the NIFCA stage,
Mm-hmm.
and you would hear about persons that are making um, uh, basically having a national presence in theater, and then you hear them and laugh it off.
Oh,
They laugh it off, snatch up the best, Um, but as it relates to the other theater companies and people basically trying to like what is going on, or what is the scene like now outside of laugh
um,
it off?
well, one day I sat down and I decided to write how many theater companies I have seen emerging in Barbados, and
Mhm.
I got about nearly 50.
Wow.
Yeah. But what happens is that, you might decide to start a theater company and you start a play and it don't make money. So
Mhm.
you can't continue because that would be economic suicide, wouldn't it?
Right.
And also everybody, I suppose, thinks that theater is easy. You see
Mhm.
the production out there, but you don't know what goes on to put that show on stage.
Mhm.
And then when you discover that it's not as easy, then a lot of the groups fall by the wayside, or they go into um other activities.
Mhm. And how much, because I, I remember sitting in the audience and watching these productions, and I was always wondering how much of this is actually scripted and rehearsed versus ad lib impromptu performance. Like, is it all scripted?
Which one? Laugh It Off?
Laugh it off, yes.
Well, Laugh It Off is always based on improvisation.
Hmm.
I like since I started directing, I would come in and I would say to the cast, I want to do a scene about um, a dentist chair, and I would give them ideas, and they have to improvise based on the ideas I give them, or it's a collective creation. So therefore, I might come up with a theme, and out of that theme, we decide we're going to do scenes that
I've
relate to that
I've
theme. But
witnessed
it's
I've witnessed those
basically
rehearsals.
mostly improvisation,
I've
and
witnessed
then
those
the script
rehearsals
is
dynamic.
created out of the improvisation. Yeah.
It's so dynamic.
Hmm.
I've witnessed those rehearsals. It's so dynamic, Sean. It's something that you really need to go and see. And I remember being a part of one of Cecily's productions. It was the first time that I got introduced to that concept of I was playing with Sats, and there was a visual artist. I think his name was Adrian Burnett. Adrian was the artist painting while the whole production going on. No, we ain't got nothing to do with the production though, but Cecily got we at the rehearsal. We got to know what going on in this production too. You know what I mean? And I was there like, I mean, as a
Oh
musician, you remember,
yes,
right?
that
Right?
was the HIV/AIDS
Yes,
drama, and
correct.
by the end of the production, he had done a complete play of what
Right.
was happening on stage.
Right. It gave me a
Yes.
completely new appreciation for theater and drama. Because, I mean, yeah, as a musician, you practice, but then seeing what they had to do in the space and the character. Because you know, a
Mhm.
Shaka person, then seeing him in character and trying to get in the character, Simon and Crispin and the others, I was like, whoa. There's a different program here. There's a different set of discipline when it comes to theater as opposed to music.
But but that that cross collaboration, Randy and Jennifer and Cecily, that
Yeah.
cross collaboration where you can have one thing happening, Randy, and
Yeah.
you have a play going on. You
Mm.
have actors, you got dancers, you got singers, and you have an artist as well who be drawing something. So straight away you have musicians involved, like you playing. You have vocalists involved. You have actors involved. You have
Yep.
dancers involved. People painting and drawing. You have everyone involved in one thing.
Yep.
You Jennifer, you think we see that as a one-off thing, and that's the reason we don't see it a lot more. It's some because sometimes it is for one place, and you can't have too much of it. So you might see something like that once or twice a year, and then you won't be able to see it again.
Mhm.
I think it has to do with the mission that the
Mm,
producer director is really about. And in that instance, as Randy suggested in Cicely, it was an HIV and AIDS total production, total
mm-hmm,
theater.
mm-hmm.
And you have to credit that not just to the producer, but the director. I'm certain that when
Yeah.
the producer possibly approached Cicely, they may not have been that element in it,
At
but
all.
they're
Mm-hmm.
looking to see how things unfold. You have to have a certain vision. Then Cicely
Yeah.
must have
Yes.
said, you know what, at this point we can introduce this artist.
Mm,
And that is the kind of work that came out of Cross Caribbean production.
mm-hmm.
I have been very privileged to work with Tom and with Cecily and to grow as a result of working with them, so that for myself I appreciate and understand what a props book is like. I understand these are not things that may normally have happened at That's in Africa, but I would understand how to line up my book with the scenes and what costumes, because I went, I
That's
joined
interesting.
Laugh It Off as wardrobe mistress, but
Mm.
because I was doing so much with Dance in Africa, I brought Beverly Gaskin, who is also one of my directors, and I said to Beverly, I told Cecilia I would like Beverly to hold it from there. But she continued with Laugh It Off as the wardrobe person. But when it came to Cross Caribbean Productions, wardrobe mistress and props, this and that, I still did my work there. And so there's a lot that I would have picked up that would inform my direction of
Mm.
That's in Africa as well. So it was a really close collaboration over the
Mm.
Yep.
years, from Final Truth to
Mhm.
Secrets.
Cross,
Yes.
can I
Yes.
say cross pollination?
Yep.
Pun
Pardon?
Yeah.
intended.
Yep.
Pardon?
Cross pollination.
Yes, of
Cross.
course.
Pun
Yes.
In
intended. Pun
education,
intended.
Yeah. But
we
here.
would say cross curricular learning in
The
education,
other
right,
thing that
Jennifer?
I can say now that I see Crystal, you know, youth on stage,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yep.
right, and I think the same year that Laugh It Off started, youth on stage started as well.
Many equally.
Um, yeah, interesting.
I had no idea.
And youth on stage started as a summer program. And
Pretty
every
years
time
ago.
I see Mustard Seed, I feel so proud because Varia Williams and Amanda Cumberbatch were
Mm-hmm.
both persons who came out of Youth on Stage. Were you at Youth on Stage, or is your son that came to Youth on Stage?
Long story short, my son had come first in class in Infants A. And for the summer, I wanted to find something for him to do that was not related to academics at all. And I
Mm-hmm.
saw the flyer for Youth on Stage, and I told him, I think this is a good program for you to make you well rounded. Of course, he was too young to tell me no. So every day I packed him off to this youth on stage thing. I had never heard of it before, but I just thought it's so far from academia, and having been in the creative space for so many years myself, I really wanted him to be exposed to it. And I could tell you that that helped him so much in terms of bringing him out of his shell, in terms of giving him confidence and I
Mm-hmm.
remember one year
Yeah.
because he did that for like 2 years, and then I think he went into mustard seed. And at 8 years
Mm-hmm.
old, he won best overall male in the whole camp, and he was only 8, and that was the camp for kids from I think 3 to 18. I was so proud of him. But then,
Mm-hmm.
as he got older, he more into the karate, more into football. So he's
Mm-hmm.
drifted away from it. But certainly, I think the foundations that he would have learned helped him, even in terms of something as simple as the composition part of common entrance. I used to tell him all the time, whenever he came to me and said, this composition is hard, I used to say, but Nate, you did theater. Use your theater mind, get into that head space. I even
Yeah.
like recently he made a joke about something, somebody using their stage voice, and I said, you remember your terms and stuff. So it has stayed with him, and I think I made the right decision to, even though he's a boy child, because most people would not think to put their boy child in theater. They would more think to put him in a football camp or a volleyball camp or a cricket camp. But
Yeah.
for me, I
Mm-hmm.
I think because the arts made such a difference in my own life, I really felt impressed to give him
Mm-hmm.
that exposure, and I don't regret it at all. That's why I started off with that question, because I've seen it in my own household, the difference it can make in a child's expressiveness, that they can then go on to speak confidently in other spheres of life.
Yeah.
If they don't go forward to do it full time, it shapes you and it molds your confidence. It molds your ability to articulate your thoughts.
Exactly.
It gives you that robustness in argumentation, because you understand how to manage your emotions and your intellect, and come across in a, yes please, okay, and come across as interesting and intelligent, all those things
Mm-hmm.
you get from being involved in creative arts. Say hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Me
This
being
is
the
another
gang
young
I used
champion
on
in the
stage.
making.
Mm-hmm.
All
Yes,
right. So,
this one, she loves
hi.
storytelling. So
Yes.
definitely have to expose her as soon as she's old enough.
So,
Although I think she's ready.
Jennifer and
Yeah.
Cecily, I'm gonna throw a curveball here now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go off topic slightly. This is something, Sluggy, I know you have noticed this. Randy, I know you noticed this.
Yeah.
Whenever there's some kind of cultural
Oh God,
show,
no.
right? And it's something that always used to bug me.
Oh
Whenever
God,
there's
no.
some cultural show, let's say that it starts at 4 o'clock in the evening and it goes until 10, 12 o'clock. You
That's
are
it.
always going to start with the dance in Africas, the Pinelands, these community youth groups, and then you move on to we got the real artists. And it's something that used to bug me. I was like, why theater can't come on at 9? Why can't I see dance in Africa at 10?
Mm.
You know, how for me, what it does is kind of set up the audience in the psyche of the audience that, well, this is just a
the
little thing, a
openers.
little,
Yeah.
little slight thing. This is not that
Wait,
important because Beijing's in
opening
the
act.
country again. Yeah, Beijing's in the country again there early anyhow. So the fact that you have these at this time would suggest these in there to really watch.
These on until the
Jennifer, hold
place
up your
get
head.
full.
Jennifer, hold up.
Yes. So
But
I
yeah,
want
man,
y'all to answer to address that there for me.
They probably haven't seen it that way. Probably.
how I address
And
it.
I'm a musician,
You
and
know,
and
you want us to perform. There's several reasons why we go to performance. We go to perform because it gives exposure, and people may say you've been around 28 years, how much more exposure you want,
but the
but
cast
it is
change,
always important
Right,
and
to
the,
cast
and
change.
the cast
right,
change.
the cast change, and it's always important. There might be some people coming to the event seeing you for the first time.
Correct.
We do performances because we want the remuneration that comes from it. We do performances because we may want to support the persons or the entities. So there are different reasons. So very often we cannot say to people, We don't have that leverage to say, well, we want to be on later in the program, or neither are we the type of people who will turn up at 8 o'clock and still expect to get on like some Calypsonians do.
I can vote for that,
Would
Jennifer.
do.
I can vote
You
for
know,
that.
so
I can vote for that.
what can I say? You know, we do what we are supposed to do without grumble. So
Okay.
I know exactly what you mean, because sometimes at 4 o'clock, you don't even have a proper audience.
Right. Right.
But the show must still go on and you perform. We were always taught, if there's one person in the audience, you've got to give them the fullest performance you possibly can.
But what is going to happen as it relates to public education in
Not
getting to a
cinema,
level, right, and getting a
Right.
level of understanding that theater
This
and
can be a
dance,
featured piece.
music and art,
Can
it
be
just
featured acts.
they're just different forms of expression, each
Right.
on the same level.
Yeah.
How we going to get there?
Because
Audience
you
understands that?
see, every show has a particular visualization. Huh?
Mhm.
Then you go to see a show at the National Stadium or a show that is with calypsos and so forth. You, if you want the theater involved, you have to structure your show that theater becomes meaningful to that experience. Like, for example, when we started class, I saw on comedy, it was to perhaps merge the theater and the calypso together. So
Yeah.
instead of having an MC who came and just introduced every person and told a joke, what we did, we merged the items that were coming. So, for example, if we were going to do, I remember Pompey was doing a song about the ZRs. And the item that we did just before that was a skit about the ZR culture. And the actors then introduced the item. Okay? So you have to have a concept. And I think if your concept is just about having a variety show, and then you bring the things that people are not going to pay as much attention because you want to hype up the crowd. You know, I don't call it an insult, but
I'm not. I wasn't saying it was an
way
insult. It's just a perception.
the audience would appreciate the dancing Africas and all the items at the top of the program, rather than giving them the idea this is a jump and wave, jump and wave, jump and wave, and you coming in time for the jump and wave, so you're about to, appreciate, like when they used to do Kahabla Pot. At the beginning, you had the folk singing, yeah, you had the spirituals, and then at the end, you hype up your crowd. And then the old people came and they took in the folk and thing, and they left before the jump away started. So I think it is about your artistic vision for the production, where you have to make it in such a way to engage everybody to come to see that production.
Okay.
Started with Calypso. You understand what I mean? If you want that.
I do understand, but I mean, like a show like, let's say,
Nifka?
the 50th anniversary of independence, right?
Yeah.
There, I mean, like, what would suggest that it must end with hype, with soca performance? You know,
customary. Right.
That's what who wants?
The producer.
Right, but okay, all right.
So
but you don't want it to end on it. You don't want it to end on a downward trajectory either. You know what I mean?
Right, I do understand what you mean.
You want the crowd.
All right, I get what you're saying. That you look at the vision for the show, you plan, you know your audience, and you cater to suit. That's basically in a nutshell. For me, And I know for Sluggy, it's just something that you notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's similar. That
Yeah.
every
Yes,
show, that
that
every
every show
show
follows the
similar.
same format, regardless of the event, regardless of. I
The
mean, it's just
audience, it
it's just the
matter.
same.
Yeah.
It's like a default.
Well,
And you
that
know what?
means that
You know what? Artists going
the
to
director only has one. The director only has one vision. So every show that director or that producer does, it will have the same. It is almost like you have a mold, and all you do is pour the clay in it, and you can get the
Yes,
same pot. Whereas
yes,
I try not to. I don't even like to use the only thing that is same every year and laugh it off is the opening song and the closing song and it's set in the bar. Right? So I would be disappointed in myself if I did not change and alter and do something that I didn't do ever.
yes. I get you. I get you.
But it's a mold and it seemed to work. You start with the slow things and you build it's like music, you build a crescendo.
Right.
I don't know.
There's some symphonies that end with a slow movement, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess it also depends on the it's hard to say too because wearing that hat as event coordinator for some things, I won't say for what. It depends on the focus of the promoter at the time. It depends on the focus of the promoter at the time, and notwithstanding the quality and not trying to quantify what is on the show, but in some cases it is a case of the promoter or the person who hires the person to bring the event off has the featured artist as the climax, the perceived climax, right?
Right.
And then dance, drama, theater, or then in that particular like scene as fillers, right? Which may not necessarily good, but I guess opening acts, right?
Yes.
And then I've also sat
all,
in the seat
all the time, all the time.
I've also sat in the seat as producer of an event which is all encompassing and it features the arts, where dance, theater, drama can also end, and the vocalists or the supposed bigger artists are not really the feature. What also happens too is that you place the dance and the theater at the top because you say, man, this body here can get here late, or this band, this band, you could tell this band 10 o'clock, but these men get here at 12 o'clock. So you got to put on the dance man thing to fill, and that is not necessarily good, right? But
Randy, we just say is the hard truth.
Is the truth. I call it a spade.
It's the hard truth.
Very,
you know
very,
that
very
if you call Bowo or Bar or Shark, you know that if your show side doors open at 8, show start at 9, that person's going to come 12:30.
1 o'clock, maybe.
Right there. They're going to call.
Me, to me, that is bad for your audience and it's bad as an artist.
Yes.
Laugh It Off started late twice in 35 years. Started late twice in 35 years.
Yep.
Once because they had a blackout. And we decided that we were going to just run down to Nelson Street and buy as much candles as we could. But the lights came back on about 5 minutes later. Mm-hmm. And again, there was a situation where we had to start late because, all the searching at the Lloyd Erskine Center, there was another problem, but we started late twice in 35 years. So you have to develop a discipline. Yeah?
I hope the guys here when he's saying it right, the men don't understand. When he's saying it, people don't understand. Say that again for me,
right? They say, but it's a Bajan show, it's supposed to start late. I said, no. No.
When they're picking up that, the men is
we have that reputation, and it's the same that you try to educate your audience. Get there on time,
When I'm picking about that, people quarrel. I'm glad you said that, Cecily. I want you to say it again for me, please. Say it again for me.
Twice.
What's that? You mean get there on time?
I mean, as a producer and ensuring that event starts on time. Because for me, I'm always nitpicking about time, and then people are like, man, It's alright, man. We can start a little after. They said, no, we can't. If I say 8 o'clock, it's 8 o'clock.
Yes. Yes.
I
And
found it.
that's part of the education, and that's part of the development of the arts and the culture.
Right,
I
let me
know
show
you,
you something. Let me show you
but
something that's normal in our culture. No, right? This is normal in our culture. All right. You have dance in Africa that's going to come early. You got whoever else they come early. So me, Sluggy, I'm the big artist. I will call Randy and ask Randy how it
today.
look, who there, how people there. Um, that time, yeah, I tell me supposed to go on, but I ain't there and get there in about another hour, boy. So Randy will come and holler, all right, dance in Africa could go on a little early for me.
You
You
should
know,
get
yeah.
charged for that.
Or
I don't
I
mind.
mean,
I
that's
do
probably
not
happened at every
mind.
show.
I
Man,
don't
it's
mind you
called.
asking. I don't mind Randy asking me
This is
under the
hypothetically speaking. Here I saying
circumstances.
that for the public. I want a body go down. So that
No, but here's the thing. I won't mind if I'm asked. What I have a problem with is if you tell me that I am on, and this happens a lot. If you tell me that I am going to be on at 6:30, yes, I have a call time of 5 o'clock, maybe, but do not expect me to be on at 5:30 because you have an artist who should have been on before
Yeah.
but is not there on time and don't quarrel with me about it either.
exactly.
If I say I cannot, do not quarrel with me about it.
Agreed.
But I
Yeah,
remember
that's a
once.
very poor taste. I don't like when that happens. I hate when people do that to me too. Like
Mhm.
you there
Standard.
perform. They tell you going out number 6, and then they come and tell you, oh, you can open the show so I ain't get here yet.
No,
No.
listen, I was involved with the Calypso tent, and the person who was supposed to go on at 5 was not there when he was supposed to be there, and he didn't go on that night. You know, you're not going on.
Agreed.
Bring it
Sis,
on.
You ain't getting paid that night neither.
I
wait,
agree.
Cecily, I want back at here though because you gloss over this, right? But this in my head, what is in my head is that you said they had a blackout and you went for candles.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that is
Random nothing secret.
like
Yeah.
but what I mean is any other body that show off.
Right there.
Sorry,
No.
She was gonna do the show with candles.
We
she's
are
all that
solution oriented.
she's all that.
Solution
Being
oriented.
creative.
So
You
But
have to
candles.
be creative.
What?
You know what candle? You know what candles you got, brother?
One
That's
for everybody in the
amazing.
audience.
Spot lamps, whatever.
anything that
That's
works.
amazing.
Cecily, you mentioned the
Wow.
Calypso tent just now, and I am one that has to banker because I have not missed the finals in, I don't know, probably 20 years, 25 years. So this year it was,
You'll miss it this year though, you know.
it ain't happened, and
Exactly, you'll miss it.
I was hurt. I was so depressed. And I can't even remember what I did that night, but if I should have cried because it was such a sad day in our history. But you are certainly someone, and Jennifer as well, both of you actually have been in the vanguard of some of the most theatrical performances on Pickety Crop Finals night. I want you to
Yes,
share
yes.
some stories with us, some stories, backstage stories, from your most memorable times getting ready for those iconic moments
I call some artist
at
names
the
too.
finals. You don't have to call any names. We would discern because
I want to
we've been
call
around, so we
one.
would discern who you're talking about.
I want to give one experience that for me was extremely challenging. 2000, it was year 2000, and I got baptized that year into the Wesleyan faith.
Welcome.
Got baptized. I went to Earlston College to learn Microsoft Word, computers, blah blah. I got a call from Gabby, and I told him I would be at Earlston, and he told me he wrote a song, and it was Wacky Wacky Waka. and he wanted me to hear this song. So somebody brought him to Erdiston. I was
I did.
upstairs. It's you that brought him. I was
Yeah.
upstairs. I was upstairs in the course, mind you. And I came down, went to Gabby, sat in the car, listened to it. And look, I had so many misgivings. My belly hurt me. My belly dropped to the bottom of my foot because tell them what was it, Cecily? It was tell the priest for me. No, imagine tell the priest to me, and I at church, and all I hearing is tell the priest for me. I'm walking up bad from the way. And this song, I had a lot of thinking to do. I gave Gabby my word that I would help him.
Yeah.
When I got home and I really dissected that song, I believed it. I believed in it. I believed in it. I felt that I needed to justify walk up. And when I talk about walk up, I ain't talking anything lewd and crude.
Yes,
I'm
yes, I
speaking
agree.
the art of walk up, the art of that
Body
that
isolation.
beautiful isolation.
Which is similar to belly
And
dancing
art.
in India and tango in Argentina, and
Listen,
it's the same type of expression.
I felt justified in working with Gabby.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's when we had
that
like
was a challenge.
seven still walkers on the stage.
Yeah, that was a challenge, but it is one that I took up. And I
Mm.
got a lot of lashes in my church for it because I would never, I'm not going to call the name of the person, but a former stalwart of the NCF came to speak. That person was not at the NCF anymore. They had moved on to another government department. And they came to speak about the song and, if it had any justification at all. But I stood firm and I stood up to it and I believed in it and I believe in the song up to this day. So that in itself was a challenge, and I enjoyed working on it because I then had my team, including Sissy, we had the challenge of making the movement and making that presentation one of the cleanest and one of the purest for the night. And it shows that Walk Up in its pure state was a marvelous element.
Yes.
A beautiful song that was well
executed. Yeah.
And
Awesome.
What about you?
I remember my biggest challenge was having a Calypsonian look like Bussa. And prior to the evening, I hired a body painter to come and show me what his body would look like. Let me tell you something. From about midday, I looking for this body painter.
Oh shoot.
I driving about looking for the body painter. 5 o'clock, I ain't seen a body painter. 6 o'clock, I ain't seen a body painter.
We can tell Ian. We can tell Ian, Cecily.
Ian would have had a heart attack. Let me tell you.
Randy, Randy.
Yeah.
Now listen, I love that discussion going there. Because we have something that was directed by Miss Spencer Cross.
Correct.
What was that?
You mentioned it earlier.
A perfect example of using technology and theater and music all in one during this COVID time. I thought it was a brilliant collaboration with the use of technology and the use of the arts. Dear Lord by Iweb.
Oh yes.
Yes, Randy, you have that you can show the people?
Yes, please. It's already on the screen.
Yeah, let's go to that masterpiece.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Dear Lord, this is your boy Webster.
Incline your ear unto me, Father, as you did with the country since we get corona. Dear Lord, COVID-19 have you busy, so I come in before they reach to COVID-20, and you don't have no lot of time for sinners like me. Lord, you have some people that claiming to be your daughters and sons, but dear Lord, they happen to be some of the most wicked ones. Like the folks from the church in Bridgetown where the members gone insane. For they stop in their house and worship, they rather infect the whole country in your name. Then some on social media who love sharing gossip and rumor. And if by chance you and them should meet, you tell them morning, Lord, they wouldn't speak. Father, teach us to number our days, but keep them so from around my place, especially when they're keeping crusades, because I can't take their nasty ways, the nasty ways, the nasty ways. Then they just run in the church pretending they're giving you praise. Oh Lord, the nasty ways, I can't take the nasty ways. This song may cause an uproar, and from the pulpit some may declare war, but I don't care, cause they can't tell me what to pray for. Oh yes.
Yeah. Offender, but Corona was a great leveler, teaching the rich and the poor how much we need each other. Dear Lord, hotel owners was living sweet. Some even tried to barricade the beach cause they wanted to keep pigeons off their property. But dear Lord, when the crisis started affecting tourism, suddenly they dropped the prices on local staycations, talking about we need to come together to ease the strain. And Father, you showed us a miracle, 40% off at the crane. Lord, and then them big companies who didn't want to invest in technology. Jesus, in the fullness of time, the employees were home and working online. Father, teach your people to behave, to stop walking about and dropping garbage, then go in and buy all the Lysol sprays, but won't sanitize all the nasty ways, the nasty ways, nasty ways. Then they just come in, they just rubber shot with their hand raised. The nasty ways, I can't take the nasty ways. This song may cause an uproar, and from the pulpit some may declare war, but I don't care, cause they can't tell me what to pray for.
Lovely.
Like that man is brilliant here. Like Web is a genius here.
Brilliance, man.
but
did y'all see my debut in that?
Yeah, we saw
did
you.
y'all
We saw
see
you,
my
Seth.
debut?
We saw you, Seth. Sister Cecily.
Cecily, it must be easier to work with the iWebs of this world because, I mean, he seems to be so naturally inclined to the theater side of performing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like working with iWeb because when I have to work with a Calypsonian, because it's his work, I want to give his concept reality. Okay? I would give ideas. I like him to have a concept of what he wants for his song. And iWeb always have, you know, brilliant ideas, you know, like coming out with the grand piano and conducting the band. He knows what he wants. I would add to the flavor, but in terms of working with iWeb, he knows what he wants.
He has a good brain. He has a very good brain.
And the fact that
And a creative mind.
the fact that he sought to employ you to bring it to reality too speaks to the understanding of what art is and his knowing, as you say, knowing what he wants and wanting to bring it to reality, and not just saying, okay, well, this is the idea I want to do. He goes to expert, Cecily or Jennifer, and y'all understand what theater is and what will be required to actually make people understand the concept. That is commendable on his part as well too.
Yeah, he's a brilliant youngster. Brilliant youngster.
I like, you remember the time when he did the one souls, the one where he went up as if he was going up to heaven.
Yeah.
He was dressed in white with the wings.
Yeah.
Can't remember. You remember that song?
Yeah.
And a lot of people lose those concepts. You did Hollywood Tree as well.
No, I didn't do that one.
A lot of people miss his concepts. The concepts go over a lot of people's heads in terms of.
There was one called Adara. Is that the one you mean? Adara?
I did Adara. Yeah. I did Adara. But whenever it's Cecily, Jennifer is behind somewhere. Yeah.
Well, one thing you could say though is that, well, maybe not, but in the theater and the dance circles, you always hear about the need to be a triple threat. And looking at someone like Eweb who can arrange, plays an instrument, can sing, he understands theater. In terms of our theater and moving forward with it, is it still that crucial for artists to be a triple threat in order to really reach the highest levels, or can you just be a really, really good actor and make it to those levels?
I think you will be at an advantage,
of course,
if you can sing, dance, and act, right? I mean, you can make it in America because you have to be able to sing, dance, and act to make it on the stage in America. And in Africa, African theater is based on all those elements. I must be the only actress that can sing, right?
But I want to speak to that too, Cecily, the need for music within theater, because I know that's part of theater and dramatic training. The fact that you have to be able to at least hold a melody. And when you're a part of Laugh It Off, you can hear some of the people sing. They're not necessarily singers, but they articulate, they imply the melody pretty good, although they're not qualified singers or they wouldn't go and do a solo gig. I want you to expound on that in terms of the need for music within theater.
Well, at least you got to be able to keep, in theater there is a rhythm, okay? You got to know of pace. A show must have pace, and based on the genre of the show, you got to know the rhythm of that show. And once you talking rhythm, you talking music,
right?
And you got to be able to feel the vibrations that happen in a production. You got to the timbre of the production. Yeah. So you can't separate the musicality, not the music, the musicality of your show. And be talking pace.
That's interesting.
Huh?
That's interesting. When you talk about the show have a certain rhythm and a certain pace. And once you're talking rhythm and saying that you're talking music. So you're looking at music as even much deeper and wider than how the average person is seeing music. So that is very interesting. I remember, you're talking about having to know music, Randy. Remember we doing Gold Cup. That time it was still with Police Band, of course. The greatest band in the world. Very learn everything. So salute all my friends from the Police Band. Log on and listen right now. I love all of them. Thanks very much. Remember we doing Gold Cup, Randy. And how the guys were speaking, they were doing like tape for like Jennifer and the other leaders. Probably do this more than once. So you're not talking once, but how they were speaking to Jennifer, dealing with bars, it started at this bar, then end at this bar. not obviously being, but she a dancer. No, she can learn right about. You know, dancers called different to me.
Right. That's
No,
count eight.
a dancer, right, and then dancers feel music different to me.
Yeah.
Of course.
You understand that them is being time like we could be playing and dance Africa dancing it only if the Gold Cup now. Obviously no we playing more regimented.
Mm. And to
But
meter, you got a meter. Yeah.
they're practicing now to soccer.
Mm.
So it's not different, it's not a different time, but it's a different feel. No, the different feel will confuse you for a different time.
Mm.
Cause you can't watch the girl's feet, you can't watch the girl's hand.
Or you don't know exactly where they are going to put the emphasis of their movement.
Exactly.
If on
Yes.
the beat or over it,
Yeah.
you know.
It's so
Like
unique.
and Jenny, that was so interesting to me. But seeing you able to operate in both worlds, because remember sometimes you will come out to Prince Cave Hall to our rehearsal, but without the dancers,
Without
you
the
will come by
dancers,
yourself, without the
Jennifer just want to know
dancers,
the feel. I
and
witnessed that too. She just want to know the feel, and that's it.
like you understand. But then she can interpret that for her dancers.
We
And then when we come to the same rehearsal now from note one, from beat one, Randy, we on
listen,
point together.
Jennifer, I have done.
And it only when it's that Gold Cup, but for me, Jenny, that was magical. That was just simply magical. How you operate in both worlds equally.
I
That
was
was
saying
magic.
that Jennifer, I have done productions over the phone. Jennifer, call me, work. Tell me what you want. Where, when, how. All right. All right, send me a recording. I said the record. I ain't looking back. I ain't even thinking about it.
Yeah.
I ain't want to see a rehearsal. I ain't want to see nothing. All they telling whoever, just go and don't worry about it. And execution, part.
All I want is that when you say to me that you are going to give me two verses or a verse, chorus, verse, chorus, chorus. That when I turn up, it is that. That if it is going to change, you ought to say it, because it doesn't happen often, but it is a real funny feeling when you go somewhere and you have to perform with a band and you're left looking stupid on the stage because what you were told you were going to get, you just didn't get. And it has never happened with you, Randy.
It wouldn't. It wouldn't.
I can guarantee
it
will
wouldn't.
never happen.
It wouldn't.
But there are others who.
But I've seen things like that with dance groups, Jenny, especially at a competition or something. For sure, where like I feel comfortable verse, chorus, verse. But then when they get there, now they tell you, listen, two chorus I talk, a verse and back to the chorus. But you have to tell the girls, well, this is the section here.
Yeah.
If not, and what saddens, right, is that the dancer looks bad. And people believe that
because that's what the audience is seeing.
The audience is saying, "Oh, they mess up." It isn't that they messed up. So I am very, 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 very careful about that. I don't know if y'all would remember. I would be one of the people who will be up at
the final rehearsal.
Ballpark. I'm gonna be at Ballpark. I'm gonna be anywhere.
Yeah.
Barbados Union of Teachers. I am going to go. If the dancers cannot get there, I will get there to ensure.
Yeah, I remember seeing you. Remember seeing you at our Prince Cave Hall rehearsal, and at Prince Cave Hall, we used to practice and then rehearse, which is two different things. And then we will come so early. She'll be there for the practice. No, the practice is us learning the song. The rehearsal is us doing what we practice. You understand? But she was there for the initial stage, which for me was different. Seeing dance with the dance rules that are real different.
I got an interesting question for you too, Jennifer. It may be obvious, but I believe that you're gonna unpack it, so we understand it with a different perspective. How does geographical culture influence dance, based on your experience?
Geographical, obviously, you're speaking of specific locales.
Yeah, and culture.
So
and the infusion of
geographical culture is going to be. They say that that theater of which dance is a subset. It's cultural expression. and it reflects the society in which it exists. Get that?
Yeah.
Theater, dance, supposed to reflect the society in which it
Which
exists.
it exists. They
Not that
love
it
that.
cannot reflect the other cultures. It can. So geographically, then, for example, in our repertoire, we would have more than one landship piece. The landship is Barbados's indigenous dance.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it speaks to our geographical location. In our
Mm.
repertoire, we must have a sugarcane dance.
Mm-hmm.
In our repertoire, we must have a fisher folk.
Mm.
In our repertoire, we have to have a market.
And the
In our
spiritual
repertoire,
Baptist.
we must have a spiritual
The
Baptist piece.
Baptist.
We must have a spooge piece.
Mm-hmm.
You understand?
So
So
you representing the true essence of where you're from, but all
of
in
course,
dance cause you speak to like you would say like flan fish, sugar cane, which is like foods. And
yeah,
then you were and then you speak to like the spiritual Baptist, which is like the spiritual where we all love church, we all love Sunday
yeah,
school, we all love the school on a Sunday, but all these things are culture, food and
things that
music,
inform
and
us.
you mentioned spooge, which is indigenous to Barbadian culture.
Yeah,
Then you mentioned the landship dance, which is also in indigenous, and you see you have many of those in your repertoire. So
Jennifer,
I never look at it
one
that
of
way,
the
like you representing the true essence of what culture is. That's great. Go
one
ahead,
of
Chris.
one of the choreographies that Dance in Africa did when I first encountered them that to this day still blows my mind. I still have the feeling that I got when I saw it, just thinking about it. You had a choreography to Look Who's Dancing. I think that's Ziggy.
yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the most that touched
Yeah,
me
yeah,
to
yeah,
a
yeah.
young girl. I love to see that.
That
And
would
I
have
think
been
that
oral.
fits.
That would have been
Look who's
oral,
dancing.
right? And one of
Yeah, and that
our, I thought you were going to speak of Bob Marley, done by Spice.
Mm.
Oh, that
oh
was a
yeah,
mix.
that one was
I
Yeah,
good
was
yeah,
too.
watching
yeah,
that the
yeah,
other
yeah.
night.
That's
Yeah,
magic.
I was watching
yeah.
that the other night. That was amazing. Yeah.
So it is important. So that is within the context of um, geographical culture. I would think, and it's not to say that you have to be steeped in your locale necessarily, because we would have pieces that can speak to Jamaica, that can speak to Trinidad, that
Mm-hmm.
can speak to wherever we want them to speak, you know?
That's
And I
understood.
think that in a lot of instances, our theater can reflect who we are in much the same way.
So
Mm-hmm.
True.
so in a
True.
sense,
Mm-hmm.
let's say someone from Latin origin, Barbadian, Saint Vincent. You have a plethora of nationalities represented, and
Yeah.
one instructor, similar dance moves. Are you expected to bring your flair to that dance move if you're going through a choreography, or is there a standard? Because in music, if you're gonna interpret jazz, you interpret jazz, but some people add their own nuance sometimes in solo playing. But if you're gonna play in an ensemble, then it must be within the parameters of that particular genre. How does it work for dance? That may be an obvious question, but I just posing it to see.
Well, it is always important to bring some of you to work, right? So that's why I would say to you that we have more than one landship piece, depending on who the choreographer is,
Mm.
right? So that choreographer will bring their own understanding and their own creative
Mm.
spirit, you know.
Mm.
I can have a market piece. Cecily, you remember we have always said that from the time we were, Cecily and I also, our journey took us to New York University
Oh yeah.
um, to do our master's in educational theater. And that was a very rewarding period of our lives, because we were not only at NYU, but we also had summers abroad. So we were in England, we were in Ireland, and we were able to experience a lot, see a lot, gain a lot of knowledge and a lot of perspectives. And I remember one of the things that Cecily has always wanted to produce was more or less like a landship fair. You remember that, Cecily?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That has been, and I hope that she hasn't given up on it because I haven't. Where you can actually have a competition that looks at, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a competition, but
A
it can just be
showcasing of
a
a
showcase
showcase.
of
Mm.
landship, and you'll be
Yeah.
surprised at how many varieties you can get. Yesterday,
Yes.
I was doing an oral presentation with the students of BCC. I was assisting in the assessment of that. And I remember saying to a student, but if you're going to be talking landship, there is so much that you can bring to bear on it that is your own.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I was explaining to them that yes, you do your readings and you add your readings to your oral work or your written presentation, but there's an opportunity to bring your own to it. And your own to it is if you are, let's say, in Israel Lovell Foundation, or you're in Piland's Creative Workshop, or Dance in Africa, or any of these schools that Gainesville, you then will also be able to bring your own reflection on landship based on how it is taught in your community and what peace looks like. Like, for example, I know that Piland's has a new landship piece, relatively new, that is called that's called Afro Shit. And in much the same way, I know that in Dance in Africa, Aisha Commission has done a work entitled Experiment. Here what it is, experiment number 246.
Wow.
And that is an experiment that she is still working on because I don't think it's finished yet, although it has been presented with where we go with landship in this present time. If we want to take it and apply it to modern, if we want to take it and apply it to African, so that the elements are still there, but it has something different. And in much the same way, she has another piece with our juniors that is informed by making our own meaning. And when I say our, making their meaning for juniors in 2020, what does the landship look like for you? What is the
True.
appeal in it? And with those questions, where would you want to see it? And we have, and I think Aisha's piece is, what is it called? I can't even remember the name. But here's another piece that of landship that we have that will evolve. So you might have a traditional landship, and then you may have others along the way. And that is what good choreographers do. So that you would have choreographers that work in Afro-Caribbean rhythms. Take Mr. Tyrone Trotman, for example, and
Yes.
he's developing his own tech. You
Yeah.
have Gene Carson that is developing his own landship technique.
Mm-hmm.
And you
I've
will have
seen
those
that.
other dancers that would begin to create movement
No,
that
no.
is
Here's a question.
theirs.
But you
Here's a,
That
see
is
how
And good
theirs.
evening to Parks
somebody
from
talking?
Playlist because he's listening. Good evening to Parks. Sean was asking a question just now.
here's a
Oh.
question. For both Cecily, well, yeah, for both Cecily and Jennifer. Um, so we talked about the fact that an artist preparing for competition might come to you and need dancers or some kind of theater presentation as part of their um, finals presentation to the judges. Now, when you are in your camp and you are creating choreographies, you're creating your plays, your presentations, do you or have you ever or how often do you get, let me say, a composer or an arranger, and you say to them, hey, listen, I have this idea for a play. It is set in 1950s Barbados. and I want the music to go this way. I want this to happen. And at this point, here is what is happening. Can you compose some music for me for this particular part?
Cecily
Uh,
does that.
Same thing, right? Same thing with, well, yes, I've seen it in definitely seen it in theater, but in dance, have noticed that a lot of the dance music is either recorded or I know I see the live drummers, but as it relates to tailor-made compositions for your particular productions, how much of that is a collaborative effort from scratch? And
Well,
that's to both of you.
I want to
Okay.
say that
Okay. Go ahead.
I
Go
am
ahead,
one.
Jennifer.
I am presently. I don't want to give away too much, but I'm going to call his name. I am working on a project, and I asked Stefan, because of our developing relationship, Stefan will call on me for some things, and Stefan puts himself in a position that he can be of assistance because he respects the group, and I suppose he respects me as well.
Yeah.
And I said to Stefan, Stefan, I need some work done. I need some studio space to record my voices. And then I told him it's not a lot of music to work with, but I've now got to source some music. And Stefan said to me, for 2 pieces, he said, you see these 2 pieces here, Jennifer? Have you ever thought of original music for it rather than looking and trying to source music that will fit into a concept you have?
Right.
Did you think of having original music? And I said, Stefan, I may have thought about it, but I didn't think it was anything that I could afford. And Stefan said, I'll work with you. And so for that project, we have 2 pieces of music that would have been created solely for those 2 pieces that we have got to do.
Nice.
So this was ever done before?
Um,
This sound like
I
something entirely new to
I
me.
don't think I cannot think that I don't. Well, within the structure of live drumming works, there would
Yeah,
be rhythms that belong to a specific dance. Okay,
yeah,
let's say the same
nice.
experiment number 246, Fisher
Mm-hmm.
Folk, um, our piece, Sugar Cane. They have their specific rhythms that would have
Mm.
been created solely for them.
Nice.
But outside of that, we now had two fresh pieces created for work that we want to a production, so to speak, that we are looking to do.
That's
So
brilliant, boy. These
I'm
ideas,
happy about
boy.
that, and I am happy that kind of collaboration has started.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I have also done similar work. I did a show called Barbadian, which went to
Mm.
Carifesta, and I took one of Kamal Brathwaite's poems, and Nicholas Branker actually wrote the music that underscored the poem. And to me, it was a brilliant piece of work. And also, there's a poem called "On the Auction Block." You remember when Ryan Boyce
Mm.
for concert
Mm.
created music to go with the movement and
Yeah.
the word. And a lot of times when we have spoken word, it is enhanced by music. Um, the the most recent, I suppose, would be what we try to do in Laugh It Off, where we would take the work of red plastic bag and do
Mm-hmm.
it in a classical style.
Hmm.
We have something called the cavity chorale, and we've done at least.
That's wonderful.
And the Cavity go around, you know,
I love that name here. Cavity Corral, Sean.
As opposed to
Like a politique, Sean.
not
And you know,
cavity.
we've taken Barbadian calypsos and we've done it in classical style.
Yeah.
At least 4 or 5, and perhaps that is something that we can say that is part of our repertoire. You know? Yeah.
That's brilliant, though. That's
Yeah.
brilliant. Many pieces are done in a entirely different way.
Yes.
Yeah. It makes you hear the song. It makes you hear the song in a completely different light. Although and they making it comedy and enjoyable at the same time.
Oh
So
yes.
You got that idea from somewhere?
Where did I? Oh, it started with doing a tribute to. I think we were just fooling around one day doing Gabby's song, and somebody started in a warm-up session. We asked them to, you know, go up the scales and so forth, and let all the work that we do always come out to some ridiculous thing, you know.
Yeah.
But then it becomes very serious because the last one we did, I think last year, was that died. We did a tribute to him.
Smokey?
No, before. Well, they got me year before. But every year we do one. We've done Red Black.
Beautiful tribute, Cecily. Cecily, it was a beautiful tribute. You should try to remember who it was.
Yes,
it was a beautiful tribute.
Oh Lord, Danilo Genga Baloka. Saddam.
Okay.
We did Saddam, and we did we also did oh Lord, yeah.
Romeo.
Anyway, what time it is? I need that kind of time.
We wrapping up soon. We wrapping up soon. That's fine.
We're actually gonna start to wrap up shortly.
Huh?
Yeah, this is our time to start to wrap up. So you're a title.
Yes. Chihuahua. How can I not? We did a classical version of that. Yeah.
That must be interesting.
Oh wow.
Yeah. But this was quite an interesting evening, you know. There's so much I wanted to say.
One of the questions I wanted to ask, I think Jennifer mentioned it earlier on, and we never really touched on it. Like, as you were making your career choices when you were a little younger than you are now, what prompted you, both of you, to take this unusual and uncanny career path at a time when I suppose most people wanted to do law or medicine or nursing or teach? You chose to go into teaching, yes, but in the heart of your career is the cultural and creative industries, a sector that at the time must have been, I don't want to say laughable, but people probably try to talk you out of it as you articulated to them in your goings out and your goings around, that, you know, this is what you want to do.
Well,
what was that like?
I'll tell you, I went to community college and I was doing maths and economics. And I couldn't get past a D at all in all the assignments.
Oh shoot.
God rest her soul, the principal at the time, she was my math tutor. And she said, "Tell me, Cecily, what do you really want?" And I said, "I want to be an actress, man." You know, I had this passion. I wanted to be an actress. And I applied to go to Howard University. And my mother asked me, "So how you going?" Meaning, you
Are you
know,
financing it?
she ain't put in no money, but she ain't had it. So, but if I was perhaps going to do medicine, we would have found it, or if I was going to be a nurse or a secretary,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
what she was suggesting that I should focus my attention on. So when I got an opportunity to, go and study, and I went to the Jamaica School of Drama, where I was able to have that marriage of education and theater. And because the reality is that most of the graduates had to end up teaching because there was no work in theater, but you wanted to do theater. So they gave you the opportunity to have these parallel careers where you could either
Yes.
do theater or you can do education. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And I wouldn't change it for the world, I love the work that I did as a tutor at the Barbados Community College. And the other thing I wanted to say, you see that whole thing about cultural farms when we were talking about the landship?
Yeah.
Students who are doing CXC theater arts must all study cultural forms. And
Nice.
invariably, they have to create plays based on these cultural forms. And to me, that is the nucleus for writing scripts that speak to geographical locations, because the students have to create the dramas that incorporate the cultural forms. So obviously, if it is landship, obviously the culture would have to speak to this location. Or if it's Pocomania, it would speak to that Jamaican location. So,
Nice.
um, we are rich in culture. And even though you don't get the feeling that our work is appreciated yet, because we still think that it is a Cinderella subject.
Yeah.
Um,
True.
you know, we
True.
we need to change that mindset, and as I say, put it at the core of our education.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So go ahead, buddy. Go ahead, Sean.
No, I was just saying that
Well, I actually wanted Jennifer to also answer the question, if you don't
No, wait,
mind.
wait, wait, finish here. Wait, finish here, Chris.
Mhm.
Well, we
um
only have 4 more minutes.
Right, say we saying,
all right,
Sean.
go ahead. I was going to tell Jennifer to go ahead and answer.
Oh, was with I did not have the luxury of moving. Okay, my thing, I have moving on to Barbados Community College. I was raised by my mom as a single parent, and she said to me when I was at foundation, my brother Ian and I are twin, and he was at Lodge, I was at foundation, my sister was at St. Michael, and my mother told us when we were approaching fifth form that she could not afford, and she was I think when I finished school my mother was a principal, but she said she could not afford to give us anything beyond a secondary education, and we should start to work and pay for our further education. I have no regrets where that is concerned now. But I grew up, my father's family were teachers. My father's brother, my uncle Graydon, the name suggests, Graydon Sealy. So I grew up among teachers, and it was natural that I would become one. I always like to do two things, teach or preach. And I am,
Preach.
alongside all of that, from a
I can see that.
youngster
I can see that.
at church, St. John Parish Church,
Mm-hmm.
also at St. John Dramatic and Folk Singing Group, dramatic and folk singing, plays and folk singing. Um,
Nice.
those were things that singing in the church choir, singing for church activities, St. John Folk Group, there were two things that were married. So when I got to Society Primary School as my first school, I was teaching, but I was also engaging students for graduation, for prize giving, in dramatic activity, in
Oh,
movement.
nice.
So when I
Nice.
went to Erdiston, my reputation went ahead of me. So my principal would say to me, "Oh, there's a little something, and I need you to teach these children a dance." And so
Mm-hmm.
teaching and culture went
Yeah,
hand in
yeah.
hand for
Hand
me
in hand.
from a
Nice.
very young age. So
Nice.
that's my obvious those are my two obvious choices. And so there was always a marriage of the two, and that has not stopped.
And we would ask that the peace program be reinstituted in the schools in Barbados.
Of course,
Yeah. Randy?
outside of the school, Cecily and I, for almost 20, Cecily, is that long? We were
I
training the
didn't hear you,
civil
Cecily.
service in service excellence, the civil service.
Yes.
We were training
Oh,
them
yes, in the gift program.
in service excellence using the strategies of the peace program. So when we went to a workshop, it was using role play, it was using role reversals, it was using all of those dramatic strategies to engage the members of the civil servants who came in for workshops in service excellence. So
Yeah.
our work has gone far and wide. It's only
Yes.
in recent times that we are not doing that right now with budgets and other priorities.
Yep.
Excellent.
So,
One of
we've
the
had a good life. Wow.
Highly
Yes.
commendable.
Yes, we did. We are having a good life.
Of
Yep.
course.
You're still living it.
as as a person who is in the technical side of this whole culture thing, studying abroad, um, production and engineering, um, what I would really like to see happen more in our productions, on stage productions, be it dance and theater especially, um, because I know there are a lot of, in terms of music, we have some companies and they would cater to the needs of a traditional band. But what I see lacking as it relates to dance and theater, especially, is that technical side of capturing what we do on stage to present to a screen. In terms of the number of cameras and camera angles and the correct angles to use, and the type of lighting, and then for theater, the type of mics we use on our actors, and how we capture, like a creative director that understands cinematography as well as theater, and how we get those angles to portray exactly what we want. I think for me that's the next step forward in really, especially in this new normal where we have to go digital. We have to, in terms of product. Yes, we got to go to the recording of things.
Of course.
But for me, that game needs to be step up, and even so, no.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
One of the
Yes.
very important things is that our technicians, our cinematographers, videographers, they must also understand how very important it is to be part of the rehearsal
Process.
process
Yeah.
and
Yes.
to be able to work with the dance director or choreographer to determine exactly what is needed.
Mhm.
One or two cameras cannot be enough.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, exactly.
I remember this. I won't call names, but we have done a production that required videography, and I am going to tell you, people may see the end product as a beautiful product, but not for us because it doesn't have enough continuity in it.
Yes.
Yes, I
Because we
agree.
can't see the dance flow.
Mm-hmm.
The videographer went elsewhere and not on the dances and for some very long shots. So, there must be a proper marriage between the videographer, cinematographer, technician, whoever, choreographer, and dancers. They must be.
And
And
I,
I
I
see.
think I think that you see that whole question of filming a stage show.
Mhm.
A stage show is a stage show. If you want to film it, let us go back to the drawing board so that you know where all the entrances and exits
Of
are.
course.
You have to recreate that script so that you don't be focusing on somebody when somebody else is talking. So you have to watch that show and create all
Because of
your
the process.
Right.
scenes and
Right. So
like
wait.
what you heard at the beginning with all the laughter. So
Mhm.
somebody listening to it can't hear the punchlines because the audience is laughing so much that you miss it. So you have to film it and perhaps either add the laughter or do it in such a way that I am not distracted by
Right.
the laughter
Right.
that I
There
hear.
are ways to do it, and one of the most important ways, and this is what they teach us at school, is that the room that you record in is one of your most valuable pieces of equipment.
Mhm.
Um, because if you have a stage that is tailor made, a venue that's tailor made for theater productions, you have to worry very little if you done do it properly of that bleed that you're talking about, that audience creeping into the actors' microphones, and I
Yeah.
mean there's a way to do it, and I think for theater, because that you see who is speaking and you probably put a camera on the person who is speaking. For dance, unless you, unless you, the director of the live feed, knows what this dance is all about and the essence of it, you're missing a lot, especially when you just got two cameras.
Yeah.
Um, you're trying to create something where it is the most beautiful sight from overhead,
Mhm.
and there's no overhead camera.
Hmm.
Or you got a camera that is chest high, but the best angle to view this from is 20-30 feet away, and looking at a 70-degree angle down. Like all of these things I think would take us to the next step, the behind the scenes technicalities that we really lacking now.
Yeah.
I know for classical music and orchestral recordings that there's someone with the score right next to the person who is controlling the camera feeds.
Yeah.
And that person is going through the score, has the score as the orchestra is playing, and they would basically direct the camera angles and what is to happen. In addition, the same way how we can do multi-track audio recording and mix afterwards, you can do multi-feed recording for cameras, and then after you go into the studio and you do your punches and you do your camera angles. But again, if you don't understand camera angles, you might have 6, 7, 8 cameras and all unusable feeds for that particular point in time. But listen, we really come a long way from the where the bus to town. We came a long way. Barbados has advanced a lot technically, socially, financially, and obviously culturally. So I think that the future is bright, but we really need to get up, because that where we are now in this technical realm in terms of getting online and getting that digital presence, that we see that we cannot rely on stage show only. We cannot rely on the person being there only, and in order to, I mean, we can have a really good production. I see it all the time. You on stage, and this was the best performance ever. And when you go on YouTube, oh my gosh, you can't share that video with nobody. You don't want
Yeah.
nobody to hear that concert because it don't sound good, it don't look good, it's grainy, it's distorted, and you don't have any kind of livable evidence of that performance, except for
Because
the
you don't think it is because we just want to put the camera on and take footage of what's happening on stage. But as I said, you have to recreate and create that it becomes a new type of creativity. It calls for a different type of creativity. You understand? Somebody who understand that third eye of the camera.
Yes.
Yeah. And it calls for even a different type of acting as well. You know, like it can be so big, and those gestures, that big gestures that you will use on the stage, the camera don't want that. The camera want more details of facial expressions and playing the emotions more, you know. So we have to redefine the way how we do that digital world. Yeah.
But we'll get there though. We have
Yeah.
to.
Well, guys, we have to wrap up. So I just wanted to say in my parting shots, two things. I really do hope that going forward in the allocation of our national honors and the doctorates and these things, that we will see more and more of our cultural practitioners taking the spotlight. One of the things that we said a couple shows back was how interesting it is that you would have a cultural ambassador who's a singer. It's very, very easy to choose a singer, it seems, but to choose someone who's involved in the theater arts or in dance, it always seems as though it's a stretch. And I hope that through our show and having persons of your ilk, Cecily and Jennifer, come on and share your stories and show people the depth of the impact that you've had, that we will see a change in that. And the other point I want to make, which is one that I make every week, is that when you look at the way how the cultural industries is set up, even if dance is the central focus of the show, you have carpenters, makeup artists, you have the needle workers, you have the snow cone vendors and the caterers. There's nothing to my mind that really pulls together such a diversity of professionals in a single space like the creative arts. It really does draw on the talents of a multitude of experts, and it really does deserve to be given greater credence within the scope of the way how our economy is structured, if only for the reason that the multiplier effect is so massive, as I just said. So I really want to say hats off to you, ladies. Both of you are icons, certainly for us here on the show. All of us on the panel would have encountered you in a significant way throughout our lives, and you've touched our hearts, you've impacted on us tremendously. And I think it's beautiful that the type of work you've done will echo through generations in Barbados and will outlive all of us. And people will remember you for that fantastic impact you had, for the fearlessness in going forward and championing the cause of the cultural and the creative industries. So kisses and love and blessings to you. Long life.
Thank you so much.
Long life
Thank
to
you for
both
having
of you.
us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I want to echo Crystal's sentiments.
Yes, please.
And we're gonna exit. I don't know if Sluggy has something to say quickly, or we can go.
It's been a pleasure, and I appreciate all the knowledge that you share with us tonight. And I'm sure on behalf of all of us, we hope that this is not the last time we will get to speak to you. You have a wealth of knowledge to share, I'm sure. So thank you.
Definitely. We're gonna exit on the beautiful sounds of Nicholas Branca and his Spooge medley remake with the Nicholas Branca band. So those listening, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate your support weekly. This is Homegrown Roundtable Live Facebook discussion saying off. You're listening to Nicholas Branca and the Nicholas Branca band.
Bye.
All right, Sluggy, you go hold back. Sluggy, you go hold back.
Thank you guys. Have a great night. We'll see you next week. This is Homegrown Roundtable Live Facebook discussion. Signing off.